Hey, so it's video 4. Doing good so far. And I was trying to think of what to do with this video earlier, and sitting earlier with my brother, I got the idea to tell people what anxiety feels like. Because everybody sees what it does to you on the outside, but they don't always see what it does on the inside and how you do emotionally, mentally, any of that. But the biggest thing for me is I can be in a room full of people and I'll feel like I'm alone. And the room can be anywhere from 2 or 3 people to 25. And I'll still feel like I'm alone. Like I don't have anybody to talk to. I get really nervous when there's more than 2 or 3 people in the room. Because I don't know who this person is, or I don't know who this person is, so I'm going to try to cling to the person I know. And like tonight, I went to a meeting. I didn't know anybody, so at first I was kind of quiet. It's just kind of weird because anybody that knows me knows I'm not quiet. And as the meeting progressed, I kind of started opening up, talking to some of the other people that were there. And I was like, that was kind of a stress relief because I've had anxiety about it all day. Just like, I'm going to be in a room full of people I don't know. Because I was already anxious because I'm going to get to write. And I love to write. And I was like, this anxiety is building and building and building. And like, I don't even know how to explain how it made me feel. Because I was anxious and excited at the same time. And when those two things go together, my ADHD is all over the place. So you can imagine the kind of person I was today. One of the hardest things with anxiety is the impending doom. You're always thinking about the worst. And like, some of the symptoms of anxiety that manifest themselves are shortness of breath, your chest may hurt, you might, sometimes like if I get really nervous, I start coughing and can't stop. I'll get really bad headaches to the point that they're migraines. And every time my chest hurts, or in the past, it doesn't bother me as much anymore because I've learned what it meant. But when it first started, I was always, I'm dying, I'm gonna die, this is terrible, there's something wrong with me. And every time I'd go to the doctor, oh, you just have a panic disorder, you have anxiety, it's nothing to be afraid of, this is what we're going to do. And then they'd start the medication thing. I know the first time I ever had an anxiety attack, I was sitting at home, I was watching my brothers when my parents were both at work, and I was 17 years old. I remember calling my grandma, telling her I didn't feel well. And of course, she rushed over to pick me up, or check on me, not to pick me up. And I went outside and I was like, my chest is hurting, I can't breathe, I'm really scared. And she took me to the emergency room. We were there for about an hour. And they ran all these tests. I had an EKG to check my heart. And the whole time, I'm sitting there freaking out. My grandma was like, oh, you're fine, you'll be okay. And I'm going to die right here. I'm going to die in this emergency room. It's not okay. I'm not okay. There's something seriously wrong with me. But truth was, it was just an undiagnosed anxiety disorder. And the next thing with anxiety is that you're constantly wondering if you're good enough for somebody, if the friends that you have, if you're as good as them, if you'll ever live up to the expectations that they set for you. And that is something I still to this day struggle with. Like, I have some of the best friends in the world. And I wonder, how did I end up with them? How do they put up with me? How are they able to understand every outburst? Like when I'm angry and shut down, they don't let me go. They just hold on, oh, it's just Ashley being Ashley. they've come to expect it. And I mean, most of my friends are either married, engaged, or they're dating someone. I'm not, because I'm me. I'm happy the way I am. Or they have children. I want kids someday, but as right now, that would be a bad decision, because I would give them a lot of sugar and try to send them home, but their home would be my home, and that wouldn't be good. And so all my friends, they're kind of on different levels than me, but they're on the same level as me. And somehow I like to think of it as God's planning, that I've been able to find other friends that have anxiety, or they've suffered from depression in the past, or they have ADHD like I do, or ADD, and they kind of connect with me on a mental level. And I do have a couple of friends that are exactly like me in every way. The only difference is, whereas I'm open about living with ADHD and anxiety, they're a little bit more quiet, reserved, and they're like, not doing that. But they act exactly like me. One of them to the point where, hey, you act just like this person. Are you related to them? No. We just kind of resemble each other, and we're both loud. Only thing is, I think I'm slightly taller, and I'm probably louder, and I will probably be the one of us to get the other one in trouble. That's just how the way it's looking. Another really hard aspect of anxiety is being overcritical on yourself, or constantly doubting yourself, telling yourself you can't do it. And I kind of touched on that earlier in the video, but the thing with being overcritical on yourself is, like the quote, "You're yourself's biggest critic." Nobody is going to be as hard on you as you are on yourself. It's, for me, for example, I'm trying to write for a magazine, because it's been one of my dreams to be, actually I wanted to be a news broadcaster for a long time, like Dinah Davis, and or a radio DJ like Christy Matthews, because growing up they were two of my childhood heroes, because in my hometown they were two of the first women on radio and TV, and I thought it was really cool. And both of them to this day are still, like Dinah Davis is still on KIT, Christy Matthews is still with Fox, and they're two women I admire because of their love for others and how they go out and help the community to try to help people better themselves. And with that being said, I have this opportunity to write for a local magazine, and the whole time I was writing my first 2 articles, I'm like, am I going to be good enough for this? Are they going to like it? I know I wrote 3 articles, and 2 of them I ended up turning in. The third one, I scratched it all together. It was probably awesome, but I hated it. Somebody probably would have liked it. But the 2 I actually turned in, I wrote about 4 or 5 times. One of them I wrote 4 or 5 times. The other one, maybe a handful of times, but I was scratching and editing, because I'm one of these people, I'll write and I'll edit at the same time. Because when it comes to writing, perfection is my biggest enemy. It's got to be perfect. As many times as I've told myself and been told, nobody's perfect. The only perfect person is Jesus. Nobody on this earth is perfect. I still strive for that, because my goal with writing is that when somebody reads it, they're going to tell that I love writing, or they're going to be able to tell that the topic I'm writing about is a passion of mine. The final 3 things that I hate about anxiety are constantly being tired, that I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night in either tears or completely shaken to the point where I can't go back to sleep, and the fact that I still don't know why I love the rain. That one sounds a little weird, but I'll explain it in a second. Actually there's 4 things, because the 4th one is fear of being alone, which I'll also explain. With the always being tired, everybody says, oh, you're not sick, why are you tired? You're so young, why are you tired? I mean, I ask myself that all the time. I'm 29 years old, and now I'm like, bedtime's 9 o'clock, if I'm lucky. And I'm starting to realize why Tanya went to bed at 9 o'clock, why she was so tired. And I realized mine's a little bit different because she was a manager and a mother of 4. But mine comes from what anxiety does to my body physically. I'm not physically sick, I'm mentally sick. When anxiety hits, it doesn't just hit you a little bit. It literally starts with your brain and works its way through your body. There are times when I can have a panic attack and be perfectly fine afterwards. I can go back to my routine. Other times, it just takes so much out of me mentally, physically, and emotionally. I'm tired. Where I just want to go to sleep. I usually fight that because I'm at work or I have something that needs to be done. And I know that's not the best way to fight anxiety. It's not a good idea to just give up, lay down, stop fighting. You have to prove to your body that you're stronger than what your brain says. Mentally, it's rough. Physically, anxiety's rough. But at the same time, I wouldn't change any of it. Secondly, with the waking up in the middle of the night, I don't know what causes that. But there have been times where I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes it'd be from a bad nightmare. And like any dream, I'm not going to remember it, but I remember the waking up part. I remember waking up in a cold sweat and I'm shaking everywhere. And I remember waking up crying and not knowing why. But I'm so mentally shaken that I lay awake for hours. And sometimes because of that, I only sleep for 3-4 hours at a time. So I'm usually ready to go at go to bed at 2 a.m., wake up by 6. And that probably plays a big role mentally. But since I started the ADHD medication, sleep's got a lot better. It's not where I'd like it to be. I'm still going on 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but I'm doing it. And third topic was I have no clue why I like the rain. It sounds like a whole lot of crazy. Probably is. But I've always had this fascination with weather. I love anything and everything about learning about thunderstorms, tornadoes, hurricanes, volcanoes, you name it. But one of my favorite things is when it rains. The sound is calming. But I think with anxiety, the best part about rain is if you're upset, not actually that it's the best thing, but when you're in those moments, it feels like it is, because if you're crying, nobody's going to know it. And it sounds crazy, but there are so many times where I'd find myself outside during a rain or thunderstorm, and people, why are you outside? It's raining. It's pouring down. There's flooding. But I'd be out there because I was crying. And I'd come back drenched from head to toe. You know, a couple of times I had to buy new clothes altogether because I was so soaked and wet. But it was calming to me. The sound of rain itself probably touched some chemicals in my brain, and it's like, hey, that's really calming. But at the same time, I knew I'm crying, nobody's going to see it. And in some of my writings in my book, one of my old houses, we were right down the street from a ditch that was a runoff ditch to keep the neighborhood from flooding. And I remember standing there one night with all of my writing, and I was so aggravated at some stuff that was going on at home. I tossed my entire notebook down the storm drain. And I remember driving by for 3 or 4 days afterwards, and there were pages scattered everywhere. Obviously, you couldn't make out what was on the paper, but that particular night inspired a song called Rain. It was talking about rain wash away all the pain. And I still have that poem. It's the cover of a notebook, just so when I'm writing, I can remember where I was and not necessarily go back to that day, but remember to not go back to that day all the time. That it was just one period of anxiety and depression, but it's not the person that I am now. It's what made me the person I am now. And lastly, one of the hardest parts with anxiety is you're scared of being alone, yet you love the peace and serenity of being able to spend hours at a time alone. And I'm not saying that being alone is a good thing, but there's just times where you need to be able to decompress, kind of slow down, make things out, get your head together. And with that, it's not saying that you're alone, that you don't have anybody. It's just remember to take time out for you. You're going to give and give and give and do and do and do for others. And somehow you're going to forget about yourself. We all do. And I struggled with it for a long time. It took about a 30-minute conversation with one of my friends. She said, Ashley, you are constantly wanting to make sure that this person's happy and this person's happy and this person's happy. But are you happy? And I couldn't even say yes to that. I mean, in a way I'm happy, I guess. But I wasn't happy. And then August 2016 happened. And things started slowly falling into place. Slowly. And I had that same conversation about remembering myself, not just doing for others, with Amy that I'd had earlier in the year with someone else. And that is a conversation that I keep attached. It's actually the wallpaper on my phone to this day, still, because it says, you have to start taking better care of yourself. Promise me you will. It says you deserve so much better than you fight for, or that you've been given, so fight for it, and I'll fight right along beside you. And that simple text message at the time, she probably didn't think that it would affect me the way it did. But if I'm at work and I'm upset or angry at something, because you work in retail, let's be honest, it's crazy. And it's about to be tax time. And you're going to get, actually any job, you're going to get pulled in 15 different directions. And only you know which way you can go. You know you can't do this, 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 and this all at one time. You're going to have to try. But you're not going to be able to please everybody. And that's my reminder that I've got to take care of me, make sure I'm mentally healthy, physically healthy, and that as long as I'm fighting, I've got somebody in my corner. I've got like 5 people in my corner. Friend-wise. Got some family in my corner too. I had a really big family. Some I'm closer to than others. But I know that those people are right there. I know that God is right there. And I wouldn't change any of it. And that's what I hope that you do. Find those people to fight in your corner. You fight, that they're going to fight too. Don't stop. Just go. And let's keep up with this 2017. Better health, better mental health. Because we're going to end the stigma of mental health, mental illness, learning disabilities. That we can do whatever we put our minds to. So here we go.